Another fundamental part of this world, exceedingly important, is this world is holographic or holistic. What that means is this world includes consciousness. This is a world in which there is thinking, consciousness. One of the things that the old paradigm scientists did, which basically deadened the world that they worked with, is they attempted to factor consciousness out because it made everything too difficult to measure. So when they factored consciousness out, they had a world that they could measure just fine, but they had taken the real world and they had shrunk it down to about this size, and there was all this other stuff that they just weren't paying any attention to. Well, in the new paradigm, we're looking at everything together, and we are including consciousness in our formulation of the world. Think about the difference for a minute. The old paradigm is dealing with a world that is basically dead, basically been deadened. The new paradigm is a world that is alive. The entire universe is alive. It's living, it's breathing, it's thinking, it's holographic, it's energy, it's consciousness. How do we know this stuff? Well, I've already referred a little bit to the quantum physicists. We can arrive at this knowledge from any number of different directions. The two primary directions is we can arrive at it from the point of view of science, as the quantum physicists, starting with Einstein, did. We can arrive at it from the point of view of science, or we can arrive at it from the point of view of spirituality. And in either case, we end up in the same place. Same conclusions, we end up in the same place, just coming from different directions. Now, what do I mean by knowing these things from the point of view of our spirituality? What this means, basically, this means our higher consciousness. Our rational mind can only go so far, and our rational mind always hits a dead end. Beyond that point, the rational mind loses its effectiveness. It's beyond that point where our higher consciousness takes over and provides all the other answers that the rational mind can't cover because we can't prove it, in using their methodology. Higher consciousness means our intuitive abilities, our extrasensory abilities, our feeling abilities. In other words, these are things that we just know because we feel it, we intuit it. Much like children. Talk to children sometime. Talk to a 4-year-old sometime about how they view the world. Oh, it's just amazing. One of my favorite ways of illustrating this, again, this process of knowing things on the basis of our spirituality, again, comes from my buddy Don Juan. Carlos Castaneda, with Don Juan, he would always, basically everything Don Juan was teaching him drove him crazy. He's like, how do you know this stuff? It doesn't make any sense. It's just so different from what I'm used to at Berkeley. How do you know these things? It's all contradictory, blah, 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 blah. Don Juan would always give him the same answer. He'd say, I know these things, and my lineage of sorcerers know these things because we see them. Basically, what he meant by that was he meant that in altered states of consciousness or in higher states of consciousness, the sorcerers of ancient Mexico saw the world of energy as it moved directly in the universe. They saw these things. That's how they knew it. How do you know it? Well, I saw it. When the sorcerers of ancient Mexico saw the world, when they saw human beings, they saw them as luminous-shaped eggs. And when they looked at the rest of the world, they saw the rest of the world as this vast spider web of interconnected luminous fibers. So we know these things both from the point of view of science as well as from the point of view of our spirituality.